Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi
Oh,
wa
wa
barakatuh.
alaikum assalam.
MashaAllah. Yeah, some of the Hidian audience saying,
Yeah.
Yep.
What was your name again?
you don't want to know my name.
Wait,
Doc.
Alright.
Doc, yeah.
Doc. Okay, yeah, that's it. Doc.
Continuous Doc.
Today we are going to talk about tarbiyah. Reason being is because we talk about everything else like Palestine, and next week will be atheism, etc. But unless we do our own tarbiyah, nothing is worth anything.
Just
And
on
do
that point, Doc, let me just mention here. Even today, my Juma's khutbah at both places, I was discussing the similar thing. As in, it was a lead up, and I told the public, the community, to join into the podcast for part two. Today, I was speaking of the importance of education, educating right from primary all the way to the advanced sciences, the necessity of that, and only then a change can only take place once we're educated enough.
Yeah.
You can't have a bunch of jahil, ignorant people leading a community. You need educated people.
Yeah.
And education is not the issue right now. We have so many learned people. We have so many scholars,
Yeah.
and not just scholars of Islamic sciences, of secular sciences as well. We have so many degree holders. We have so many who have PhDs and masters and everything. But the thing that's missing now is the tarbiyah and the implementation. There's lots of knowledge. Knowledge is accessible everywhere. All it takes is a Google search. It's on my phone. I know, right? As soon as I open my phone, the first thing you'll see is a Google search
You become an alim right away.
on the spot. Yeah, you got Sheikh Google who's in your pocket.
There's actually research right now that the next big, not oil value thing is data. Data at the moment has got more value than oil right now.
Allah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Data, there is so much data right now that they have collected more information than any book. All of the books written right now, you put them all together, and that is nothing compared to the data that's been collected in the past 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, we could totally understand that. I met a man from a particular university abroad, and he said to me that I know more than Imam Abu Khanifa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I said, "You do? How is that?"
Yeah.
Yeah, and he said to me, "CD-ROM." Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole point is tarbiyah. Like
Yeah.
Molna Sahib is saying, education is there. But we even see very educated, religiously educated people, like our mums and dads used to say, become a doctor and engineer and you'll be a good person. Even
Yeah.
those people not having tarbiyah. So I think the first thing to do is define tarbiyah.
Yeah.
What is tarbiyah? Hafiz Umair, what would you say?
But yeah, I think it's just being a good person, good citizen of yourself. That's what I would say.
Yeah,
that
like good character.
having good character, a good citizen, just generally a good person.
Good
okay?
person.
Right.
Okay.
That tarbiyah doesn't have to be subject to a religion. Okay.
Right. That's fine. Yeah. Some people say your humanity before religiosity. Yeah.
Okay. Because if you put tarbiyah and humanity at the same time, it balances out. You remember Hafizar, when we were doing our chaplaincy, and we were at the Manchester Royal Infirmary. We were doing our chaplaincy as a thingy, working there just to get our experience. And there was a humanitarian chaplain there.
Yeah.
Okay, he was his favorite. Okay, the thing was,
I bonded with him really well.
he had no religion, nothing. He not even atheism, nothing. But he, as a human person, he was a very good person. Like, you sit with him, you just want to speak to him. Just keep speaking to him. His manners, his way of speaking, his way of standing, sitting, look, his guftugu was just very unique. You remember, like, he was like, we
See,
would like to sit with him.
I pushed him to the limit of saying La ilaha illallah.
Allah.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Subhanallah.
I took him to that extent that he was accepting everything we were saying. So the way I put across to him about nature, the existence and creation, everything was in place. The need for a morals, the need for a guide, the need for somebody with supreme character to show you how to live life.
Yeah.
All those aspects. And the only thing left, honestly, at the end, I mean, my conclusion was for him to say La ilaha illallah. That was the only hurdle between him and Islam.
Yeah.
But point being, Hafiz is mentioning here is, as in, he didn't need a religion to have that good character, have that tarbiyah, something that natural awe that he had, which was catchy, which was, you know, it was like a magnet. You would want to sit with him. He could speak on several subjects. So now this attraction wasn't because of his knowledge. You know, some people, you become attracted to someone because of their knowledge, and you want to sit with them because you're constantly learning. You're in awe of their intelligence. That wasn't the case. It was his simplicity, and his welcoming nature. That's probably what.
You know what? One more thing. He was there as a volunteer, but full-time volunteer. Do you get it? When he's working in the NHS, in Royal Infirmary, hospital, voluntarily full-time. You don't find that anywhere, do you?
Subhanallah. Yeah, giving up his time, all his effort. That is a big thing for anybody to do for anybody. You know, this is where religion comes in. So if you are a good humanitarian in this world, but then you die as a non-Muslim, you will get your rewards in this world, but not in the hereafter. So this is why when we talk about good tarbiyah in Islam, we obviously presume that the person has already iman. And he's following Islam, like Mawlana Sahab said, you know, the education, Deeni education, you know, what is farad, wajib, etc. That's really important for you. What is haram, makruh, etc. But what we're talking about here is, and I'm glad you mentioned this particular person, is imagine combining the two. Now, my question is, how did he become a humanitarian? Did you ask him?
He was. I remember was. He used to go to the church. He was influenced by Christianity, and I think he was a Orthodox Christian. Okay.
Right.
But he wasn't happy with the Christian way of tabligh.
Okay.
Their way of tabligh. Right.
He had his opinion on some of their
beliefs and
their practices.
Yeah. So he moved away. So he moved away from every religion, literally every religion.
So number one thing we can say is, to be a humanitarian, you need to start thinking. So he was thinking.
Of course.
Yeah.
So unless you're thinking, you're not going to get anywhere. So shouldn't that be step number one? Sit down and think.
Yeah.
You need to become rational.
Yeah. That's the only thing.
Unless you're not rational, and you can't think rationally. You could never actually. You would appreciate Islam as well.
Yeah.
Never mind any religion, you wouldn't be able to appreciate Islam unless the mind is not rational. Because Islam is justified through rational understanding. It's not complicated at all. All it takes is somebody to describe it to yourself in a way that would relieve you of your complications that you have in your mind.
Yeah.
And it's all up there.
So can we say that, you know, Islamic rationality is good character?
It leads to good character.
It leads to good character.
Of course it does.
But at the same time...
But point being,
go on.
The reason I said that it does lead to good tarbiyah is because many scholars have that rational understanding, but the tarbiyah is missing. So just that rational understanding doesn't naturally cause you to have good tarbiyah.
Right.
Yeah.
So after
it's one of the causes.
Yeah.
Definitely can lead you there.
Okay.
It'll open the way.
Okay.
For a layman, at least let's suppose, if he was to start that, the self-discovery that he has through challenging Islam through rational understanding will automatically enlighten his mind and soul. That then would open his heart and incline towards good nature, good tarbiyah.
Right.
And that's, I think, how it would pave its way through.
But there's one thing that you need to bear in mind, that if you become too rational, a layman, if you open the doors of being rational, what that could lead to is people going down the route of atheism, people going down the route of being a communist. Okay, it is very important to balance that out, where you know, okay, you know, this is right.
This is why.
Right. Okay.
Every layman should not become rational on his own.
Can I just say
he
something?
Must sit with somebody learning.
For example, this chaplain that we're talking about, okay, he was a layman Christian. He became rational, and what happened? It led him to leave the religion.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that he's discovered or looked into every religion.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
but here's it. How can we say that? Because I'm going to argue over this point a little, just debate it a little. So if you become too rational, you become an atheist. I think if you become irrational, you become an atheist. Because if you became rational, you would be according to the fitrah or the natural order of things, which is Islam, which is fitting to our chemistry.
Exactly.
Yeah. So so if we say step number one is understanding and thinking,
Yes.
and then it leads to becoming a good human being. Let's just say, let's put it in context. It leads to becoming a good Muslim.
Yeah.
Because that includes being a good human being and being, I know what Hafiz Umair is trying to say, it leads to being spiritual as well. Because if you're just logical, you're not going to, so when
But
you
need
are,
you need to define spirituality. You know, when we were doing this chaplaincy, okay?
yeah,
The main thing, every other word was spiritual. Okay?
yeah, but nobody knew what it meant.
Nobody knew what
Is a question, is spirituality emotions? Is that all it is? Or is spirituality something that because we're not that spiritual, we can't say what spirituality is? It's another dimension. Is that true? Like sixth sense?
Some people would mistaken it for just good feelings.
Yeah.
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 So when I have a good feeling after a mehfil, a good feeling
I
after
feel
a bit of
spiritual.
dhikr, I mean, in that sense, any good feeling could become spiritual. You have a good meal, a nice biryani. Wow,
Yeah.
I feel spiritual after a biryani.
Yeah, or if you have a drug, like
After a
marijuana,
drug,
you
yeah.
have a good
Yeah.
feeling. So
Wow.
is that spiritually
So
high?
you have to differentiate. I think that's a separate discussion. Like you said, you spend an hour with an
Yeah.
alim. I'm sure we could easily speak for an hour
Easy.
on spirituality and emotion here as well.
Yeah.
But coming back to the point,
Yeah.
being rational. What I was trying to say was being like, let's say that example of that that priest,
chaplain.
that chaplain. Now he became rational, and I think one of the problems here is becoming rational without genuinely wanting guidance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is.
Yeah.
We become rational because for many reasons. One of the reasons could be you want to free yourself from the limitations of a religion,
Yeah.
the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
So the mind, the shaitan says, okay, why don't you become rational? Think for yourself. Why do you need these limitations? Why is, let's say, the deen stopping you from this? I mean, you're like in a cage, isn't it? Like the hadith says that al-mu'minu, that the state of a mu'min is like he's in a cage, fi sijn.
Yeah.
Like he's in a cage.
Yeah.
That's the state of a mu'min. He sees his desires, and he's tempted to reach out to them, but he's limited within the bound of Islam, between the bound of religion. So when somebody following his self-desire, and he becomes rational, and the motivation is that self-desire, then of course he'll become an atheist.
Again, I would argue, if, for example, I want to follow my desires,
Yeah.
my rationality will say I am going to commit a crime, and then the police will get me. Yeah. So then that goes against me, becoming sinful or an atheist or something, because, I understand that not everything in Islam is it has the concept of being rational. For example, doing tawaf anti-clockwise around the Kaaba Sharif. Yeah? Okay. But the initial stage is rationality, and the highest stage is become spirituality, which we'll talk about on another day. So when you're speaking to a non-Muslim or a weak Muslim, you can use rationality. Okay, but in order to convince them regarding Islam. But when you're speaking to a practicing Muslim, then what you do, you use ayahs of the Quran or use hadith, etc., because they accept the text. Yeah. Okay. So we are today living in an age where, would you agree or disagree, the majority of Muslims, they are not educated in the deen, and they lack akhlaq, good adab, in other words, good tarbiyah. And one of the reasons is because they don't think, they don't use their mind, they don't have the time to sit down and think, or they think that they don't have the time. Now, the first thing that we would say to the viewers, and something that we should practice ourselves, in fact, before doing anything, it's good to try on yourself. So I went to the park today. Okay, so I was sitting there with somebody, and we were discussing nature, Allah, Allah's beautiful nature, etc.
Subhan.
So
Subhan.
it made us feel free, and the person I was sitting with had just had an argument with another family member. So it was going on about, you know what, I feel now the person is out of their house. They were thinking, now I feel that I was in the wrong as well. But before, I was just arguing in my case.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Before it was just him being right.
Absolutely.
I
Now,
think one bit you mentioned that becoming free. I think that's what a lot of us need right now. And this is why the Western understanding of going on a holiday once a year, or taking a break, or the weekend break,
yeah,
so that you become free from that 5 days strict regime you go through day and night.
yeah,
Work, sleep, 5 days. You need that weekend as a break to become free. And rightfully speaking, like you mentioned, going to the park and opening yourself, embracing nature. I think that in itself is a spiritual amal itself.
absolutely.
It's spirituality.
It's good tarbiyah.
Whether you accept it or not.
Yeah,
We as Muslims will call it tarbiyah. We'll
Yeah.
call it, inspiration or spirituality. And a non-Muslim or an atheist wouldn't be able to comprehend that this is actually spirituality. He would define it as good feeling. I felt good. I went to the park. Whereas a Muslim would say, I felt spiritual by going to the park.
yeah,
Yeah?
yeah.
And that's what's needed.
I know somebody at the gym who you asked me about the other day, and I sent you a bit of a photo. That particular person is spiritual but not religious. So
Okay.
when they talk, I mean, her two sons are Muslim, yeah, but she is spiritual. She says to me, religion is man-made, yeah, but spirituality is real. Okay, so I don't want to go down that. That's another topic or another day. But one thing which I will say is, yeah, you're absolutely right. When we were out there today, we wanted to be away from human beings. Yeah, we wanted to be away just in nature itself. Yeah, we didn't want to hear chitter chatter from anywhere else, and we felt really good. Now, what actually happens is your mind opens up. Your mind
Yeah.
opens up because it's not constrained. And when you talk about the cage, yeah, in the Hadith Sharif regarding the cage, now, that's a brilliant way of putting it. Why? Because, when the bird is let out of the cage, I mean, for us, it's going to be the hereafter paradise. Yeah. Okay. It's going to be worth staying in the cage.
Definitely.
So one of the rational things, this is higher level rationality. The lower level rationality is what you were saying earlier. We follow our desires. The higher level rationality is, the police are going to catch us, or the angels of punishment are going to catch us. Yeah. That's like the very higher level. But the steps that we take in order to be a good person. The second step, which as we're talking about now, maybe the first step being thinking or understanding, and the second step being like, what are you thinking and understanding? What is the concept? So we're talking about the concept at the moment. Okay, now this is the concept, but the third step is actually doing it. Now this is the most difficult bit, which I always feel, and whenever somebody asks me, I like smile. Oh, okay, right, because I look at myself and I think, okay, sometimes there's
you're gonna put us
something.
on the spot as well now.
Yeah, no, really. I mean, unless you put yourself in the spot first, you wouldn't know what you're talking about.
Okay.
Unless you've been through an experience,
Okay, let's
yeah,
go for it.
you can't really relate it. So sometimes, when we're young, our parents ask us to do something which is good, or our teachers, and we start questioning. Why do we question? Because we think, no, we're not going to be happy that way. We have another way of being happy. We know better, sort of thing. Yeah, this is where you begin to give up. This is when to begin to give up on your opinions, on your thoughts, on your feelings. And this is where now Islam comes in. Why? Because whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim, it's a challenge. Name me one person who is better in character than the Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yeah, and where did that character come from? Is there anywhere else to learn good character other than that? Even this humanitarian chaplain that you're mentioning, and I'm mentioning this person at the gym, very spiritual, etc. Where does that come from? Yeah, it's just bits of what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam had.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam now. What hafid with him? And Hafsab said right that we need education from when we're children. But Tarbiyah is something different. It's some people classify as experience. Yeah. So one of the things that why I smile is because one of the things I've learned in my life is sometimes my teachers and parents told me to do something and I thought, no, I think maybe this other thing is better. Many years down the line, I realized, no, they were right. Okay. Now, the thing is, what's that? That's life's experience. You know, when you get a bit of a beating, like with the person I went with today, had a bit of a tiff with a family member and then began to realize, that I'm not totally right. The first thing to do is to understand that I am not totally right. Then my opinion goes, I'm not. Once you do that, then, comes in this thing what we call surrender. Islam, what does it mean? One who surrenders.
Yeah.
That's when it comes in strength. And then when you look at Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, this is where Seerah comes in, where I think is so important for good tarbiyah, the Seerah. So you need an ustad who can teach you the nitty-gritty details of Seerah, not just the generally skimming over it.
Yeah, not just the facts.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times the facts are being described, but not really the you call it the nitty-gritty, I call it the juice.
Yeah, the juice or the usefulness of how to implement it.
The moral of the story.
Absolutely. Yeah, we need that. We need that.
And not just that, it has to become relative to our times.
Yes. Now, the amazing thing is...
all aspects have to be covered.
Yeah, exactly that. You see...
Because unless we don't make it relative to our society...
Yeah, it's not going to make any sense.
It's not going to make sense. I mean, it can't be relating to Pakistan or the subcontinent.
Yeah.
It has to be UK standard or UK understanding of the seerah and adaptation of those prophetic characters in our times.
And that aspect, that blueprint which you get from the Hijaz of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam's time, we can use that blueprint here in the UK. Now, the thing is that's one of the things which I wanted to put forward. And we're saying on this podcast now, why don't ulama educate themselves, train themselves first, and also, here's the important bit, have field experience of this themselves on their own personal characters, and then come and teach it. Why can't we do that? Isn't that going to be the most effective way?
How do they gain that field experience?
Okay, life's
experience. Let's put ulama on the spot for now then. But then the public next. So it's not going to be a one-sided argument now.
Yeah, okay.
I've got to defend my lot. Okay. So an alim who's studying, he studied this in a madrasa.
Yeah.
He's been given that perfect environment where he can thrive as a student. He's going to spend majority of his time in a madrasa, in an institute. Day and night he's sat with students, with teachers. That's all he's seen. As soon as he graduates, he goes sits on a mimbar, and then he probably is given a house that's next to the masjid.
Yeah.
And he wakes up at Fajr Salah, makes his way to the masjid, leads to Fajr Salah, goes back home. Comes back for Zuhr, goes home. Asr, then he starts to teach the kids or whatever till Maghrib and Isha, then he goes back home. When does he actually get the field experience?
Okay, does he go shopping?
Of course he goes shopping.
Does he go on holiday?
Yeah.
Does he take a plane?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Look at that life's experience.
These are basic experiences.
These basics.
These are very basic. These are like, and anybody can pull that off.
Yeah.
You don't have to just be an alim to know how to, carry yourself when you're on a plane or when you're traveling from one airport to another airport.
Yeah.
I mean, the field experience I'm talking of is real life experience. And majority of the ulama...
But what about real life experience? This is real life experience. Like
real life as in knowing the
ills of society.
The difficulties of society and what people are experiencing. Because a lot of the ulama, I speak from my culture, they have a very relaxed lifestyle. And that's because Allah has facilitated it. The blessing of the deen is everyone's looking for peace. This whole podcast is what pursuit for happiness. Ulama have that happiness, believe me, because obviously the finances come through whatever means. The finances is not the issue, and that because also some of the tarbiyah through their education is not to depend on finances but depend on Allah. That level of yaqeen is slightly higher than maybe others. Therefore, that's never becoming a problem for them. And secondly, because the people they mingle with, a lot of the time, even their families are families of ulama. They know their rights. So they won't have those, common family issues because of, somebody depriving the other of their rights and having family issues. there will be some, but a lot of the time they do have a relaxed lifestyle. There's no pressure.
But doesn't this come into it? Doesn't lust, greed, backbiting, pride, jealousy, doesn't that come into it? Doesn't grudges against other people in their heart come into it?
Grudges against other ulama, all of that does happen
Yeah.
between the ulama as well. But the experiences I'm talking about is experiences of where, you have huge fallouts between families, or let's suppose marital issues, which is one of the biggest, ones that hits an individual where he has problems in his marriage. A lot of the ulama don't face that. Some may do, they may well do, but that only happens when the rights are not being fulfilled. And when an alim knows his rights, and let's say his wife supposedly also knows her rights, there's no reason for a marriage to break down. A majority of the time. So I'm generalizing here, yeah? We all know there are exceptions, yeah? Because I see that smile on your face.
Yeah.
Yeah. So generally speaking, they do have a relaxed lifestyle.
Yeah.
And point being, when I say field experience, I'm talking about real life cases. This is where the majority of ulama fall back. So a student that's graduated, he sat straight on the mimbar and he's put on that spot. He doesn't really know what's happening on the field, on the ground.
In other words, he's not a community alim.
He
doesn't work in the
imam
community
yet.
like a social worker.
He's not a community imam yet. He probably has the knowledge, but isn't prepared to solve issues, tackle issues of the community.
Yeah.
Let's say he's only 18, 19 and he's graduated. And now he's having to deal with a family, let's say husband and wife in their 50s. They've got 4 children. How in the right state of mind is he going to influence or impact the two who are almost 3 times his age?
Yeah, he's going to open a 600-year-old book. Yeah.
Not going to work.
Yeah. Okay. So in
field
other words,
experience definitely needed.
Our beloved Prophet ﷺ, he was a community prophet. So imagine putting in respectful terms a social worker. So he was out there. So any ulama.
But that being said, Khalid, right, look, Prophet ﷺ started preaching at the age of 40.
Uh-huh.
Before that, it was all field experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. The dictation of ahkam and laws only came after 40. Up till then, it was field experience. Now what's happening is ulama graduating,
Yeah.
and they don't have the field experience, but they have the knowledge. And what's needed, necessary, is for them, just like in secular sciences. Let's say a pharmacist does a 5-year degree. 4 years is pharmaceutics, and 1 year he does the what's it called? The pre-reg.
Yeah.
1 year training. That 1 year training gives him that field experience. Let's say medical school. You have to do the 4 years of medical school, then you have 1 year training. You're becoming a nurse, you have training. That training aspect is there in every walk of life.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, amongst the ulama, that's something that's lacking. They're educated, graduation done, imam on their head, farigh and go sit on the mimbar. But what really should be done is, even after their faragha, after their certification, they should be shadowing a senior imam for, let's say, a few months, few years, or like traditionally, like we know the scholars would first seek knowledge, then they would travel. And whilst they would travel, they would accompany or shadow other senior ulama and see and how to conduct themselves as alims, how to protect their own honor, dignity, how to build that self-respect, how to build that awe which the senior ulama have. They would do that by traveling. We know the famous accounts of Imam Ghazali, rahimahullah. First sought knowledge, and then he's traveled for many years. A big part of his life he traveled. And then he became the known Imam Ghazali as we speak of him today. But talking of tarbiyah, now ulama, obviously we put them on the spot here because they're leading the community. They have a more of a responsibility to have that tarbiyah. If the tarbiyah is done of an alim, when he speaks, it flows in his speech as well. It flows in his conduct, the way he carries himself. You'll see that tarbiyah aspect of him. And that's what's needed right now. And if an alim has it, then he can share that with his community as well. Now, even when he's sat with small children that are doing, salama, razaqa, the basic Quranic recitation, he'll share his experiences with those children. And those children would take that influence, that impact from him.
So you're saying that the education that an alim has, coupled with this field experience,
Yes.
equals good tarbiyah.
It's still leading to tarbiyah. You know, when you say, okay, let me stop there. Tarbiyah is a term we're using,
Yeah.
and whenever we use tarbiyah, we think of the elite awliya Allah.
Right. Yeah.
That's the first image that comes to mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
the top-notch awliya Allah.
With spiritual and
Yeah,
akhlaq and everything
Sheikh
else.
Abdul Qadir Jilani Rahimah Ghaus Azam. We talk about Khaja Muhyiddin Chishti. We're talking about Huzur Data Sahab. Those are the names that come to mind, and their stories, their accounts come to mind.
Yeah.
But even then, it took a level of years and experience to become Data Sahab that he was, to become Sheikh
You
Abdul
talk
Qadir
about the
Jilani.
Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One alim, he mentioned a very good point, that if you look at the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam after Ilan Nubuwa and before Ilan Nubuwa, there's a massive difference. Before Ilan Nubuwa, he alayhi salatu wasalam, he lived in the caves. He was in the cave just before Ilan Nubuwa. But after Ilan Nubuwa, he was in the community. Regardless of what the backlash he got from the community, what the response was, but he was in the community, in the face of the community. Okay, so this is what you could say that tarbiyah is for the ulama, is that they should be in the community, more knowing what the issues are. Now let's come back to the chaplain thing.
Look, can I just say one thing? You know, in the Quranic ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, we have raised a prophet from amongst yourselves. So he spent 40 years of his life in the community. Okay, my question is, that's when they call him Al-Amin and all the great titles and the love he had and the trust he had and all this kind of thing. So the thing is, aren't we supposed to go back to those roots and see how did that happen? One of the conclusions which I personally have come to is life's experience and his connection with his Lord.
But you know, all of this, we're talking about the ulama and the field experience. The issue is, you go back 100 years. The Dars and Nizami course was around 25 years.
Yeah. We were discussing this last night.
You come back, you go, okay, you come to 1960s, 1970s, it's shortened to 15 years. Now you come to the 2000 to 2020, it's come to 8 years. Now the recent new one is 5 years.
Yeah.
Okay, why is that happening? Okay, the ulama are coming out left, right, center. Okay, the ta'aleem is there. Okay, but that tarbiyah or the way the ulama should be is not there.
You know, when you said shadowing elder ulama, you know, in the some of the, we were discussing this with Mullah Sahab the other night as well. You know, around the world, like we said 100 years ago, what we were talking about was you learn from the books, like the academic side of it, and then you go out into the community. You, like you said, like you travel with your ustads, etc. But here's the difference. Those ustads, and now this is where we've got it difficult in the UK, those ustads knew their society because they grew up there, they knew everything. Okay, fair enough, we've been here, let's just say, from the 1960s. But again, our ulama who have been here because of the language barrier, because of the sort of cultural barrier, they did not get to know the community as well. Do you understand? Like back in the subcontinent for us lot, they knew their communities.
We've had that gap. We've lost a generation.
We've lost a generation.
One generation we've definitely lost.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing is the way we live in the UK is everything is fast delivery, takeaway, end of story. Right? Everything has to be fast. Okay? So if you are going to produce ulama that are going to take 10, 15 years, okay, you've already lost a generation there. You've already lost it.
It's meeting the demand, honestly.
Okay. So, but at the same time, if you're going to meet the demand, then there is going to be a loss of that tarbiyah side then.
That's natural, because those 25 years,
you're going to get that.
Those 25 years that they would normally spend.
Yeah,
it was ta'aleem and tarbiyah together. So after the 25 years when the graduation ceremony took place, that student was not just a teenager. He was probably married by then.
Yeah.
Had experiences of marriage life as well. So when he started to preach, a majority of the young shuyukh now that are preaching, they're not even married. So how do they describe marital issues when they have no experience of marriage themselves?
Okay, when we're talking about good tarbiyah here,
Yeah.
let's make one thing clear. One is like public service.
Yeah.
Yeah, good tarbiyah, dealing with other people.
Yeah.
But the other side of good tarbiyah is your own personal sins. Yeah, or tazkiyah nafs.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about. Yeah?
Yeah.
Like bringing them both together makes a person whole. So how you deal with other people and how you deal with yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a relationship with your Lord, there's a relationship with yourself, and then there's a relationship with other people. So there's like three areas,
relationships, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
which make the entire concept. In that case, you know, like for Alhamdulillah, we talked about the ulama, them leading us and showing us the way after showing themselves the way, yeah, and being trained in the area. But if we were going to leave the audience today after the podcast, what is it that they could go away and easily practice? Let's just say for 1 week or 2 weeks, until, let's just say maybe in 2 weeks time we'll do the next podcast on tarbiyah. What is it that, because I've already thought about a few things before coming here, you know, from the park, about like what is it that we can give?
Well, that's not fair. You got a chance to go to the park. I didn't.
Well, yeah, I know you've been busy all day working, probably. And Hafsal's probably being preparing for his party. So the thing is that his birthday tomorrow. Actually, we make dua. So I come up with something. So I'm going to share my bit.
Go on.
And I think actually,
So this is, I mean, the practical thing we can do towards tarbiyah
absolutely
within this week at least.
absolutely, because when you talk about good tarbiyah, you bring in your
Okay, before that,
yeah.
we've still not been able to define tarbiyah.
Okay.
We've gone left, right, center. We've gone on a long tour
Yeah.
here around the globe.
But did we mention that tarbiyah is like, we already mentioned, not having bad character traits, which everybody knows, like jealousy, pride, greed, and all this, and having good character traits, like, for example, forgiving, being generous, having that sincere relationship with your Lord as well as the creation, looking after yourself is tarbiyah as well, your food, sleep, exercise, etc.
You know, one thing that the viewers, I would say, is as a way of good tarbiyah is, we need to know what things are influencing us. Okay, people don't know how we are being influenced indirectly. Okay, like today, my Jummah Bayan was on the video games.
Right.
Right, and I all the kids there in the Jummah, parents brought their kids, and you can see their faces, they're frightened, like, what is this topic, video games? But before the Jummah khutbah, I was doing my research.
Was your research playing on a video game?
Yeah, the influence of video games, okay?
But did you try one?
No, I'm just giving you an example.
He's played many games, he knows.
He knows.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as he knows.
The thing is, what
He's
we need
actually very good at Tekken.
Yeah.
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 He beat me to it.
Yeah, very
Okay,
nice.
more-
Alright, so
And him and Bilal, you know, we were in Scotland last week. We went for a break.
yeah.
Hence, you know, feeling good concept, yeah.
Yeah.
Spiritual playing games.
You know, those games, they don't let you be spiritual at all.
They don't. So you
At
went
all.
out to enjoy nature, and these guys
And
were.
then Bilal and him, you know, Bilal, he's always here with it was in the podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, at the end of our stay, I'll share this with the public.
Yeah.
Both of them were sharing a room, so they had their own beds, but they had an ensuite. So the argument was who's going to clean the bathroom,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
because we were told the instruction was we must clean the entire house, that hut we had hired for the weekend. That it needs to be given back, keys back the way it was given to you.
Yeah.
So each one had to clean their bathroom. So they had an ensuite. So they fought one another over a video game. The loser would clean the bathroom.
Wow.
That's how serious they took it.
That's how serious. Well, actually, what a decision to make.
And then who actually cleaned it?
Huh? Well, I beat him 5-0, but thingy, I still cleaned it.
He was generous. So while he
Khair, what I was saying is,
Go on.
but how we are influenced, okay?
Yeah.
Okay. We are influenced, one, by in the house, by our brothers, sisters,
Yeah.
okay, mom, dad, okay? Then we are influenced by the area that we live in, okay? The area is influenced by the main thing that influences them, and that's the mainstream media. in reality, we are actually being influenced by the media very, very indirectly.
Yeah, from our phones to whatever you see
video
outside,
games to tablets to iPhones to everything that you can think of. Okay, and this is one reason why Tarbiyah has gone down the drain.
Yeah,
it's
because
the influence.
we learn.
We don't know what is influencing us indirectly.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, by using the phone, okay, or by playing a game, like for example, video games. Okay. I did my research. If you were to get a child to play a video game that's fighting, that has a superhero, let's say Iron Man, and now the Iron Man, he is known as a good person, but by fighting.
Yeah.
By fighting. Okay. Violence. By doing violence, he's doing something good. Now, if you were to show that to a child and put him into a room with kids, he will fight. Thinking, okay, if I fight, there's peace.
I'm good. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is what one solution I would give for the viewers as for Tarbiyah is to look at things that are influencing you indirectly or directly.
Right. Yeah. Look at the influence. You're not absolutely right. Yeah. I think Imam Ghazali rahmatullah looked at the influence in Baghdad Sharif and he left. Yeah. Okay. So the other thing is regarding influence that I think I've got this on my WhatsApp profile picture. I'm not sure, but other people can check. I don't know how. I came up with the 2 words. Yeah, and I've been walking around today, and I just had dinner somewhere as well after the park, and then I went somewhere else as well, and I met some other people, and I met somebody in the street earlier as well. So in all that time, I was trying to remember to keep 2 words in my mind and to see if that would give me a good character. And I'm telling you, the times that I'm a human being, so I'm practicing it, and at certain times I forgot. When I'm in the middle of a conversation, you would forget. But then I try to remember them again and again and again, and they actually make a difference. They actually make it. They give you a spiritual connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where all the tarbiyah comes from. They give you like a firm dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help. They also give you an idea as to how to deal with other people. Yeah. They also give you the idea about who you are. Now, imagine having all of that in one go, because Maulana Saab came round to pick me up and he said, "Oh, that's a nice BMW." So that guy who left that, what was it, Z4 or something?
Z4,
that BMW. I was actually chatting to him, because he's into cars, he's into, and I was talking about good tarbiyah, because I knew I was going to do the podcast, so I thought, chalo, let's have a chit chat about tarbiyah. And I came up with these 2 words, and those 2 words were attention and devotion. Now, they may not mean anything at the moment, but listen to this. If you just know this, as soon as you say this 1 hour podcast, people are not going to keep on playing it day and night in every situation, family, work, outside with friends, in order to remember what we're talking about. So in order for them to go away with something like